Okay, Micron Technology Q3 26 results. So this result came out few weeks ago, not less than 2 weeks. So let's analyze. So first thing first, for correction purpose, please, if you are watching, when we are reviewing the result, we found out that there was a mistake in the upload. You know, there are three graphics here. The first one is the income statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow. So for this balance sheet and the income statement, it was a mistake. It was uploaded. This is not the right. This is 2025 and 2025 income statement and 2025 balance sheet. So the right one has been corrected below. So the correction has been effected. So this is the right one. That's why we wrote updated income statement and the updated balance sheet. So these two things. So in case you are going through it, please, this is the one we are referring to. So let's dive into the numbers. So marginal, but the analysis are correct. Revenue grew, gross margin ballooned. All the four segments of the business, starting from the CMB and the AEBU segment, they all grew operating margin over 75%. So pretty nice result. They did 3x to 8x year on year. This is, remember, it's 9 months result. So let's go to the books and see what happened. So for the income statement, you can now see that income statement. You see that revenue ballooned. You can also see that operating income also ballooned. Then remember, this is an AI play. So if you want to get a sense of what Micron is, you need to go and watch or read our analysis on their full year results of 2025, which is on the YouTube channel on the X page. So if you do that, you get a sense of what Micron is. Then the income statement side of things too. You can see that the income statement too also ballooned, and that is that reference we are making, income growing over 41 billion. When you do the math between this and this, 41 billion plus. So you can see that everything is looking up there. They made margin. You see what the margins are. The margins are all exceptional. The margins are all exceptional. So that is it about Micron income statement. So let's look at their balance sheets before we now dive in and explain. So you also look at the balance sheet side of things too. You see, one thing, note this balance sheet, this is as at August 2025 and the May 2026. So you see the few changes. The assets keep adding. The asset grew more. Then the total, where is the equity too? The equity nearly doubled. And of course, naturally, the ability also grew, but everything is looking up. So let's talk about behind the numbers figure. So number one is to know that the business have 4 segments, and those 4 segments grew by 3x to 8x, starting from the CMBU, CDBU, MCBU, and the AEBU. All these 4 segments grew marginally. Then another thing is the OBBA, which is One Beautiful Bill Act, which was enacted on April 25 under Trump's administration. It introduced a broad U.S. corporate and international tax changes. So there was a tax changes as a result of this BAAA, which is One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So it brought some changes, but so far it hasn't reflected on the tax side of the business. It will fully go in full year 26 to 27. So maybe subsequently the next report, the full year report, now we start seeing effects, but we bear that in mind. Then another thing that is still looming, like we said from the previous analysis, is that the CAC, which is Cyber Space Administration of China, they are still placing those restrictions. So that is, this trade war between them and US. So they are still placing restrictions on their firms that buy Micron chips. So that is also another risk to bear in mind. If it escalates more, that means they might lose their market. Then they still have some litigation going on. The litigation between they had with NetList, the jury verdict is still sitting at 445 million US. Then they still have some multiple parallel suits in China. IP court, China has this IP court. So one in Beijing, the other one in Shanghai. So the case was against Micron and its Shanghai subsidiary. Micron has a subsidiary in Shanghai, which is called MSS. That's Micron's Shanghai subsidiary. So we are alleging that their franchise called 3D, there's 3D and the DRX. They did some patent infringement, so they stay dragging it out in the court. So if it sees out, it's a cost to the business. And finally, another thing to bear in mind, that there is an off-balance sheet item, which is a lease that is sitting around 1.54 billion. And then another big risk that you bear in mind, that there is this chips funding that is coming from the US to support this technology. So the risk is, what if a new administration comes in, or whatever it may be, and claws back all these incentives, which will still affect the bottom line. So this is about Micron 9 months results. So pretty robust. Everything is looking up. Because the AI love affair is still going on. So it's a pretty nice result for 2026 9 months results. So we are looking forward to, remember the changes we have effected. So we are looking forward to when the full year results will come out, so that we see if those litigations have been settled out, if there is any clawback, even the tax incentive they had from Singapore, all of them are still coming in, and the demands for their chip is also ballooning. So business is going well. Till then, we see how it goes. And even as we are taping this analysis, they even supported the administration. This is part of this Trump account for keys. So they donated a certain amount of money to that, and the president made a tweet about it too. So year to date, if you look at the stock price, which has ballooned too, if you have been following some of our research material, you could have known where to be at the time. It is not late. Both global stock and the Nigerian stock, you can always reach out to the team, or you read through our analysis and use it and add to your decision. But if you are confused on how to go around it, you need a hand-picked research, you can always reach out to the team and get a paid research that will make it easier for you, do the heavy lifting for you. So till then, see you on the next analysis. Peace.